A pleasant morning to all of you. I am Marin Grace Clarang Acotenza, and today I will be presenting my report on the topic Diagnostic Assessment, Summative Assessment, Interim Assessment, and Taxonomy Approaches to Assessment. First, diagnostic assessment. Diagnostic assessment is intended to identify learning difficulties and misconceptions during instruction. It is not only given at the start but also applied when students show persistent learning difficulties despite the pedagogical remedies by the teacher. So, diagnostic assessment is a type of pre-assessment used to evaluate students' prior knowledge, skills, and understanding of a particular subject before instruction begins. Its purpose is to identify learning difficulties, misconceptions, or weaknesses while instruction is ongoing. It also helps the teacher why a student is struggling and provide remedies. And important note that this is not part of grading or achievement marks. For instance, a math teacher gives a diagnostic test before starting fractions to find out if students still struggle with multiplication and division. If difficulties are found, the teacher reteaches those skills first. Now let's proceed to another type of assessment, which is summative assessment. Summative assessment is done at the end of instructions to determine the extent to which the students have attained the learning outcomes. It is used for assigning and reporting grades or certifying mastery of concepts and skills. An example of a summative assessment is the written examination at the end of the school year to determine who passes and who fails. Summative assessment is the type of assessment used to measure what learners have already learned at the end of a lesson, course, or unit. Its main purpose is to evaluate the overall achievements or performance of a student compared to the learning objectives. Summative assessment is conducted at the end of instruction to measure whether students have achieved the intended learning outcomes. It is mainly used to assign grades, certify mastery of concepts and skills, and determine whether a student passes or fails. For instance, a final examination in English at the end of the semester evaluates a student's competence in reading, writing, and grammar. Now let's move on to interim assessment. Interim assessment is another form of assessment that is given periodically throughout the school year to prepare students for larger tests and predict their performance. It serves as a bridge between formative and summative assessments, functioning as instructional, predictive, and evaluative to support both classrooms and school-level decisions. On the other hand, interim assessment falls between formative and summative assessments. It's given periodically, usually every few weeks or months, to monitor student progress and predict future performance. Its purpose is to prepare learners for larger or high-stakes assessments, such as National Achievement Test or college admissions exam, while also helping teachers, schools, and districts make informed decisions. For instance, a test given after a chapter to see if the students have understood the lesson. In conclusion, diagnostic assessment is conducted before the lesson to check prior knowledge, and interim assessment is conducted during the lesson to monitor progress, and summative assessment is conducted after the lesson to measure learning. Now, let's proceed to my last topic, taxonomy approaches to assessment. This diagram, based on Terenzani in 1989, presents a taxonomy approaches to assessment. When we say taxonomy, it means orderly classification, and taxonomy identifies relationship among the elements presented in the chart. So you will see in here the assessment taxonomy introduced by Terenzani in 1989. It's like a Rubik, a box, a three-dimensional box. The purpose and rules of assessment may be summarized through this taxonomy. This consolidates the questions such as what, who, and why of assessment. And these are the 4 dimensions of outcomes. As you can see on this side, we have knowledge, skills, attitude and values, and behaviors. And this is the what of assessment, the object of assessment. And that's what we are measuring and what we are identifying during and after instruction. So assessment here goes to improve this aspect, and in return, it also improves instruction as it provides feedback to the teacher. Next, we have this what we call learning teaching, which is formative, and accountability, which is summative. So accountability refers to the decisions, curricular decisions made by the teacher, school authorities, the administrator, and policymakers, a way to evaluate the program, the courses they are offering well for the learning and teaching. This could be on this line, competency-based instruction, placement test, or for program enhancement also. In this part of the model, it states the why, the purpose of assessment. Why do we assess? In order to improve learning and in order to improve instructions. Why do we assess on the part of administrators, the teachers, the policy makers, the curriculum developers? That's accountability. For them to know how to modify the existing curriculum or content they are introducing to the learners. Now on this side, this shows the level of assessment. In this state, the who questions. Like, you know that a test could be given individually or per group. It could be individually or per group for this line, and this connects with individually testing. And for this line, this connects per group testing or assessment. Again, that's the taxonomy of approaches to assessment. And this model shows the relationship among the elements presented on this particular slide. So this is the last slide. Assessment can be explained by asking what, who, and why. What is assessed, which is knowledge, skills, attitudes and values, and behavior. Why assess, which is the formative for learning and summative for accountability, and who is assessed, which is the individual and group. So I think that's the end of my report. I hope you learned something, and thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.